Hi everyone, in this video we're going to check out CommerceQL. CommerceQL is a minimalist e-commerce GraphQL framework that you can use to bootstrap your e-commerce project and get going. It requires that you have the GraphQL CLI and the Prisma CLI installed, and we'll walk through how you can get set up with a boilerplate in this video. So let's dive in and have a look at the code and see how we do that. So if I head on over to GitHub, we can see that we have CommerceQL as a public repo here, and you can see exactly how this is made and how the boilerplate works. And this is just using some standard GraphQL boilerplate templates that are made by GraphQL and the guys over from Prisma. This does a few things out of the box for you. It will set up some types for an order and an order item and also a payment. So this works with Stripe at the moment, but other payment providers will come. Hopefully, if you do find any use of this, feel free to submit a pull request with your favorite payment providers, and we can support those and much more. So if we have a look inside of this database and we have a look at the data model, you'll see that we have this order item, and payment. We have an order, and this order contains items and an email, a total, and a currency. Its default is Great British pounds, but you can specify any currency that Stripe supports now through when you create an order. We also have metadata as JSON, so if you want to store some additional information about the order, such as address or a customer name or number, you can put that in the metadata as well. We also have this payments array, and the payments array is down here, and this is what we will populate when we get a response from Stripe. So when that's succeeded, you will get a new record created and attached to this order. Now the order item, that will have a description, a quantity, an amount, and also some metadata as well. And this metadata can be used to create things like, the vendor name, the brand, the color, the size, things like that, you would use the order item for. So let's head on back to CommerceQL's GitHub, and if we scroll down, we can see that we have a contents here, and we can see the different sections that are involved. Now, I want to give a huge shout out to Molten. I work at Molten, and these guys are very, very happy to sponsor this project and allow to give me the time to work on this. So going forward to introduce new features, these guys will play a huge part in that. I really, really love their support. So if we head on back up, there's a few things we need to do. We need to have the GraphQL CLI installed, and we also need to have Prisma. Now I've got these installed, so I'm not going to bore you and go through those, but head on over to your console and do this now, and then come back. Great, so you went and done it, right? Now you're back, cool. So we're going to run GraphQL create, and this My Commerce app is the part that you will define your own application name. So if this is your own store, whether it's a website or a mobile app, or it is a React Native app or an iOS app, anything and anywhere you are using GraphQL with Apollo Client or Relay, you can use this boilerplate to get going, which is absolutely awesome. So this additional flag called boilerplate is the GitHub link here, and this is the short repo name, and we have that there. That's all you need to give it, and the installer will take care of the rest. It will set you up with a Prisma account and have it added to your account, and if you've installed the Prisma CLI, you should be logged into that already, so you don't have any of that to worry about. This will just happen and work seamlessly. Then you'll see, you'll change directory into your application and then run yarn dev, and you've got a dev environment running. Now there is one other additional thing you'll need to do, and that is to set up a Stripe secret key inside of the env file. And we'll do that next when we walk through this. Now, this project doesn't cover authentication at all, and that's because people handle authentication in their own way. So I'm not going to set and say you must handle authentication in a certain way, but just bear in mind if you're going to use this in any apps that are online, that people will be able to use the queries to get an order and all of your orders without any authentication. So make sure you aren't handling any sensitive information there, because that will be available to the public. So don't use this in production if you haven't wrapped any authentication in there. Awesome, so it's about time that we dive into the code and actually run this on our machine. Now, don't forget that you'll need to have a Stripe account, so head on over to Stripe and sign up if you haven't already got an account. Log in, and then you want to head to the Developers and API Keys section. Then, just make a note of your secret test key, and we'll come back and we'll grab that. So inside of my terminal, I'm going to type GraphQL create, and I'm going to give the name of my app here as My Commerce Site. I'm going to pass in that boilerplate as CommerceQL. That will now go to GitHub and get that project, download it, and it'll install it. And because you have Prisma CLI already installed, it will now look to deploy this to Prisma, get a URL, update our project's URL in environment variables, and that will be ready to go once this is done. Next, I'm going to change directory into my commerce site. Whoops! Cool, we're inside of my commerce site, and I'm going to open this up in my Visual Studio Code editor. I'm going to head on over to the env file, and this stripe key here, I'm going to replace with my stripe key. So from the stripe dashboard, I'm going to grab the secret key, I'm going to come back here and populate that, and you can see at the top here, we have a Prisma endpoint, and this is what was given to us during the boilerplate install. You don't even need to worry about this unless you want to change where it's hosted with on Prisma. So if you want to create your own project and you want to have your own MySQL database or Postgres database, you will need to swap that URL out. So I'm going to have a look around the code now and I'm going to see exactly what it's given us. So if we head over to the source file and we head to index, this is the entry point, you'll see that we're configuring Prisma. We're not setting a secret because I'm not handling any authentication or creating any JSON web tokens in this boilerplate. But if you needed to use those, that's where you would place those configuration items there. This would all just belong in here. Cool, so moving on, we have a server, and that is using the GraphQL server from GraphQL Yoga. If you've not already checked out GraphQL Yoga, it's an awesome library that gets you up and running with a GraphQL server and all of the configurations taken care of. So go check that out, and it's by the guys from GraphQL and Prisma, so it's definitely worthwhile that you check and give it a thumbs up on GitHub. Cool, so at the end of this file, all we are doing is starting our server. We'll also display a console message that the server is running on localhost. You can update this to be whatever you like. It's just some feedback so you know the server's running. Cool, now I'm going to head over to the schema.graphql file, and this is the public-facing schema that your users and your clients will use. So we have a query for order, and we also have orders. The orders returns an array of orders in our database from Prisma, and we'll go through and show you how you can do that. Awesome. So we have next a mutation. We've only got one mutation type in this boilerplate at the moment, but it gives you the ability to check out a cart, so to speak, and you can pass in an email, that Stripe token, a currency, and all of the items. You can also give it things like metadata and custom information and all of that, and it'll return back in order. We've also got a subscription query. This subscription query allows you to subscribe to events, and any new orders that come through will be populated to that subscription. So if you have a page in a dashboard and you want to list all of the orders for your store, then you can subscribe on that page with Apollo Client very, very easily, and you can see a stream of new orders come in. Absolutely fantastic, very easy to do with GraphQL Yoga, and it's built right into this project. I am super excited about that. Next, we've got this input type, and this just locks down some of the things we can put in when we're creating that checkout. Next, we've got some utils, which are just used throughout the checkout, checking whether something is a negative integer, and calculating an order total. Now, if we head on over to the resolvers folder, we have a look at our query. Very, very simple. Our order query gets the ID from the arguments of the query. It then will just make a call and a lookup to Prisma, and we give this DB. This is in the GraphQL Yoga context, so we can grab out DB, and it really just means Prisma, the Prisma instance that's running. We call query on that, and this is a GraphQL binding. If you've not used GraphQL bindings before, these are super powerful, and in this project it's even more powerful because you can link with a backend database and service like Prisma, and anything else you can link to other GraphQL bindings like GitHub and many others. Fantastic, check it out. Now, what we do inside of this order is we pass in a where clause, and that where is just saying wherever this ID is ID, return that please as a query. Then we have orders doing the same thing. We don't actually use any arguments here. If you wanted to filter things and do all of that, you could then pass those in via the arguments, but we're not doing that right now. We're just saying get all of the orders as a query and return that please. Very, very simple. Next is the mutation, one of the biggest files. As this project grows, we'll probably split this out. So if you're watching this video in the future and we've worked on this project together, then you might have to look around and have a look for the checkout function itself. It may be in another folder. But the checkout function is a mutation, and it takes in on arguments, context, and various other things like the root and info param. So from our arguments, we want to grab the email, token, currency, items, and we want to use the spread operator to bundle everything else into rest. And that will just spread the rest of the arguments into a variable called rest. And we can later spread those out into a call to the Prisma database with our data. But these are some of the important arguments that we want to look for. We actually want to check to see if the email is an email. If it's not, we want to throw an error and say, hey, you didn't give us an email, you can't check out. And that's very important here. Next, we'll have this order constant. The constant of order will await this function from being run, and that will go ahead and it will calculate the order total of all of the items that are in the checkout. So very, very simple. You don't need to worry about how that works. If you need to add anything else additionally around that, feel free to head to the utils folder and you can update this. But it's very simple. The total will be 0 as default if no items are given, and it just returns basically a reduce function in ES 2015. And it will check for negative integers. You can't say add something of a negative value to the checkout. Next, inside of the mutation, we are going to call out to Stripe. And we're going to call out to Stripe first because if Stripe says, hang on, this payment's been declined, we want to throw this. We don't allow people to check out if the checkout and the Stripe don't work. If that card is invalid, this should just return an error saying, hey, your card's declined, and it should pass that error from Stripe straight through to your interface. Now inside of this charge function, we are passing an object which contains a receipt email, and this is quite cool because if you're using this in production, this will actually tell Stripe that the receipt email is this, and it's the email we passed in, and we check to see that's valid, so it will always be there. That will then send a receipt to the customer via the Stripe's API, which is a nice little kicker on the side there. Now we have this order, and this order is created, and it's using GraphQL binding with Prisma. And this will call a mutation called create order, and this is just something which is given to you for free by Prisma when you create the data model and you deploy it to Prisma. It generates a mutation called create order. Now we need to pass it some data, our items. It will then create this connection relationship between the order and the items for us, and we just give it an array of items, and with this that has the same structure of the GraphQL type, and it'll go and do all that automatically, which is absolutely powerful. Next, we have some payments, and we want to create a payment. And this payment reference, we're creating an object here, and that will be a reference, status, and currency that goes through to there. And then we'll pass in everything else. Then what we're going to do is just return that order. Whew! So that was a lot. Go back and watch it if none of that made sense. Now we're going to fire this up and actually run this in our browser. So inside of your terminal, you'll want to type yarn dev. This is going to start the server. It's going to open your browser, and it's going to head on over to this playground. Now, because I've used this before, you may see, if you've used GraphQL before, you may see something in here. This is just GraphQL Playground. But what I'm going to do here is this is using a checkout mutation. I'm going to add my email in here, and I'm going to add that token that is valid. You could obviously use Stripe tokens on the front end if you're building this within the client app. You would just pass the token through to this checkout function, hit run, and it would go and do that. So I'm going to pass the currency as GBP here. This items, I'm going to pass in a t-shirt, an amount of the t-shirt, a quantity of the t-shirt, we'll add in 5, and add some metadata. You can include that, you don't have to, but that's really cool. It allows you to extend the possibilities of each order item very simply with this JSON object. Then we're going to pass in another object here, and this will be another order item. Now this time it's trainers, has an amount, 1 pair of trainers, brand, size, and the range is in there. And we've also got some metadata on the order. Now we're going to pass in ship and address, and it's going to go to 123 Commerce Road because that's where I live, on Commerce Road. And it's going to deliver those products there immediately. Awesome. So once this mutation is done, we will return the ID, the total they created at, and we'll also return back the payments relationship with that. We'll grab the ID, status, and reference. Now I am going to run this, and it's going to return everything we asked for. So I haven't had to make any additional calls. I haven't had to do anything on the front end. Like, if you're using JSON API and you get includes back, you've got to look through that includes for IDs. It's a mess. With this, you can just simply use this in the interface to map out everything. And because you're using something smart like Relay or Apollo Client, all of this will be cached as well. So if you make additional requests to this later on, all of this will be cached for you. This doesn't change. The queries will be persisted, and we'll have a look at that as well in another video. So this is the charge reference from Stripe. If we head to the Stripe dashboard, click Payments, and we just refresh this page, you will see that we have this transaction here, and it went through for this amount. And if we scroll down and we have a look at the Send Receipt button, you'll see that my email was automatically populated there, and that came straight from the GraphQL mutation to Stripe. Now if we head back to the GraphQL playground, and if we open a new tab and we create a new query, this time we'll call orders, and I'm going to grab an ID from that order, and also we're going to grab the email, the total, and we'll grab the currency, and we'll hit run. Awesome. Let's get some payments. Grab the ID, and we'll grab the status, which was succeeded. We'll also get the created at, and we'll get the reference. Again, comes back straight away. If we check this out again, and I'm just going to add a different email here, just so we can see that's different. Hit run. Head on over to the orders tab, and we hit play again. You should see we've got an array here. We have the first one, and we also have this second order as well. This has come directly from Prisma. If we grab the ID for one of these, we can open up a new tab. We can also grab an order by ID. And again, I could grab the ID if I wanted, but I already know it. I want to grab the items here, and I want to grab the description. I would like to grab the quantity, the amount, and we'll grab that metadata as well. We hit run, and you see that we get data, order, ID, the items there, and the items contain the description, the quantity, amount, and the metadata. So this is really powerful if you're prototyping applications and you want a GraphQL backend that supports e-commerce. So please check it out on CommerceQL.com, and from here you can learn about a lot more and things like how to deploy this. And this is very simple. We have this project set up to deploy to now. So inside of your terminal, all you need to type is now, and it will go ahead and do that. Because I'm running on a free plan on this account, you will see that all of the code will be public. So just be aware of that. If you're deploying any changes to the template, the boilerplate that you cloned, that this code will be public if you're using a free Now account. Now this is on site now. We can open this up in our browser, and if we click on this URL here, we are taken to the exact same endpoint here, and this is the endpoint that you will use in your applications inside of Apollo Client and things. But right here, we're going to call out to orders. We're going to grab an ID. We're going to grab the total. We're going to hit run. Now, because we were using the same environment variable for our Prisma endpoint, everything we did in localhost is available to us here, which is awesome. If you want to create development environments, you can do all of that by having different endpoints with Prisma. But you can see that we did this here. Now, if I head on over to my local and host, and I grab the checkout, and I head back to the version that's on now, and we hit run in the mutation, and I'll just have hello 2 here, you'll see that we are this transaction sent to Stripe, it's sent to Prisma, and it's returned to us in our application. So that's it. That we have installed CommerceQL using the GraphQL CLI. We've deployed to Prisma, we've hooked up Stripe, we've checked our orders on Stripe, and we've deployed to Zeit now. So hopefully this is enough to get you started using GraphQL in your e-commerce projects, and you can integrate anything you like, such as Relay and Apollo clients, on whatever website, mobile device, TV app, anywhere you are using Apollo and GraphQL, you can use this project to power those purchases. So feel free to give me any feedback, jump on over to the GitHub repo, add some issues if there are any, add some feature requests in there as well, inside of there as well. We'll handle everything to do this project inside of here, and we'll just build on this and see how useful it is for people. So if you like it, please head on over to the CommerceQL GitHub repo, give it a star if you like it. Follow me on Twitter. I'm at notrab. That's Barton backwards. Ping me any messages on there and we can discuss that as well. Leave a comment on this YouTube video. If I've sent you a message via the Product Hunt email, reply there as well. I'll try and pick up your comments and questions there as well. But it'll be awesome to build this project to try and help bootstrap projects in the e-commerce space. And hopefully very, very soon, we can extend this to support the lovely guys at Molten and their absolutely fantastic e-commerce API. If we can build some adapters for this that work with that, then it should help anyone that's looking to use something which is much bigger than this with GraphQL. Awesome, it's been such a pleasure to show you this. Hopefully you enjoy it as much as I have creating it. There's a few things which we don't have in the boilerplate that I really wanted, but I've kind of stripped this back so it was very, very simple and it allowed people to get going and do more. I didn't want to add any restrictions, so hopefully I made a good decision with that. If you would like to see more mutations and more queries, we'll do that. I'm sure there are many things we can add, but and there's many things we haven't covered in this video, but hopefully in the next few videos we will as well. So it's been great. Have a great day. Happy coding. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and ask questions. If you've got any, don't follow me if you don't want to see any videos like this ever again. But it's been great. Have a good one.